Hello and welcome to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast. This show digs into the challenges in growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit. I'm Christeen
And I'm Steve Bousquet. We are the green industry experts in profit, growth, and leadership. Hello, Christeen. How are you doing today?
I am good. It is a good day. You can, feel fall is coming in the air, which is another favorite time of year for me. So by the time this podcast drops, it will be fall.
It will be. And my wife is so much happier in the cooler weather, which makes me happy. It is fall in New England and the leaves are starting to just now starting to turn, and everyone's excited. It's football season, apple cider season, pumpkin season, apple picking, all that fun fall stuff. So it is here.
It is. Yeah. And I know football has been missed by my husband. He's like, I can't wait till football comes back. So I'm glad it's back, and he's happy with that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of people happy, that's for sure. And it puts people in the right fall mindset. And speaking of mindset, in today's episode, we're going to talk about the right mindset to move your business forward. And forward doesn't always mean having a bigger business. It means moving the business, your business, in the direction that you want it to go.
Yeah. And I really think, from my experience, mindset has had a lot to do with the growth that my business has had and my team has had. So I think the right place to start is unpacking, what is mindset? So what do we mean when we say the right mindset?
So the right mindset, and we're going to talk about the choice map. We're going to talk about judger mindset and learner mindset. And so what is the right mindset to have? Well, first off, we get to choose our mindset, right? So unless we're being a complete victim all the time where everything is happening to us and we don't have any concept that we have choices and opportunities, which is not a typical entrepreneur. Most business owners are entrepreneurial spirited, and they kind of have this philosophy. They make their own luck. They make things happen, and they're not a victim. But they can also fall into that victim mind. But the learner mindset is really where growth, opportunity, what's possible, what do I want, is where a lot of that growth could happen. Now, the challenge is if the owner has it, that's wonderful. But then how do we get that mindset as a culture through our whole company? Even if it's two people, how do we make that learner mindset part of our culture of our company?
Yeah, and I think that there's this balance, between the two mindsets, which are completely different. Like you said, there's a learner mindset and the judger mindset. And, they seem conflicting, right? Like we've got one positive and one negative, but, we really need both. Like both is there for a reason. We talk about this in our, workshop of utilizing the choice map, where we're talking about, the judger mindset is there for a reason. It's there to serve us, but really it's not there to drive us. And I think it's really easy, and I have fallen into the trap of, the judger trap of just letting my judger mindset drive me, my communication, my choices, my behaviors, things like that. But over the years, I've learned from becoming, certified question officer, Steve, we've learned to really leverage the learner mindset and let the judger mindset help us make decisions as we move forward, instead of, letting it drive and control the whole situation.
And, judger is our friend. It lets us know that we're feeling, thinking a certain way. But we have tools to kind of move past that. And we have switching questions to get out of judger. So, but what does judger sound like? And I kind of share this. Judger sounds like this. What's wrong with them? How can they be so stupid? What's wrong with me? Why can't I hire anybody right or good? And why bother? So that why bother gets to why even talk to them. And that is deep judger pit. And the challenge is it doesn't serve us. There's no way to move us forward, our business forward, our team forward, our business forward in judger. It's literally, that's why they call it the judger pit. You get stuck in that judger mind. So the way to move out of that is with switching questions. And some of the switching questions are, am I in judger? So just the awareness and recognizing that we are in judger. When I'm in judger, I'm like, I am in judger. And then the next question I ask myself is, do I want to stay in judger and remain in judger? And the answer is like, maybe for a couple moments, but I know I have to get things moving. So the answer becomes no. And then, what do I want? What do I need? What am I feeling? And I can move from judger through the switching lane, through the switching meadow onto the learning path.
Yeah, and I think the easy way, to recognize the judger mindset versus the learner mindset is the judger mindset creates, constricting thoughts and questions, right? It's that reaction versus the learner mindset creates, that uplifting feeling where we feel optimistic, where we can move forward. And we ask ourselves those internal questions that do move us forward or are solution based. So that's really the difference of recognizing, am I in judger or am I in learner?
And we can feel judger, when I was saying those questions, what's wrong with them? Why are they so stupid? What's wrong with me? You can feel, people feel that tension in their neck and their back and their forehead. But when we say learner questions like, what do I want? What's possible? What's best to do now? What are they thinking, feeling, and wanting? What am I thinking, feeling, and wanting? We ask people where that shows up and how that feels in their body. They'll, just like you shared, it's lighter, it's freeing, it's a relief. So just simple phrases can change how our body takes those words and reacts to those. In our mind, it's interesting. I had a coaching session in my own business asking someone, what else could have been done? And they were in deep judger, and the answer was nothing. So there's no other way that this could have been handled. Mm-hmm. Nope. There's anything we could have done? Nope. That's it. So that's deep judger because there's no curiosity. There's no questions. Is there, any other way we could have looked at this? Nope. So, and I've been in deep judger, so I'm familiar with judger. So I'm not pointing fingers. I've lived there many, many hours of my life, but I have to get out because I have to move my business and my life forward. So when there's no way out, is when I'm in judger. So when I'm in judger, I have no clear vision. I have no innovation. I have no cooperation. I have no ideas. I have no creativity. And that's why I have to quickly get out of judger.
Yeah. So I think, by learning how to identify our learner and judger and where it shows up. So this is what increases us as business owners to make intentional choices versus reacting, right, in any given situation. And in business on the day-to-day, there are so many things that we can react to that are stressful, that's creating friction, not allowing us to move forward, stopping us, problems, you name it. So when we use learner and we can identify when we're in judger or learner and we're connecting with learner questions, it allows us to intentionally make the choices that we need and respond to people and circumstances in our life and in our business versus react, which can have a huge impact on people's willingness, how they show up for us, what they want to do for us when we're even not there, and whether or not they truly want to be on our team.
So a lot of times, I've looked when something happens, whose fault is it? Who was there? What did they do? And, now that we've been using this choice map and learn a living mindset, my question always goes to, first, what's true? What happened? Second is, what do I want? And the third one is, what's best to do now? So it moves it out of whose fault is it? Because a lot of times things just happen. It's really nobody's fault, or it is somebody's fault, and we can learn from that. But by focusing on that, what's true, what's best to do now, I can move it forward as opposed to before getting stuck and staying in that judger pit. So it's really, and we get to choose that moment by moment. We're not a victim of it.
Yeah, and I want to take a minute too to talk about like what exactly is mindset, because I feel like mindset is it's like this buzzword lately, out there. And it's like, what's the right mindset? What's the wrong mindset? What mindset should you have? And so I just want to simply like define the term mindset represents the set of beliefs and assumptions we hold about ourselves, others, and the world. And mindset also points to what we hold as possible for ourselves, others, and the world. So that's really, when we're talking about the mindset, yes, it is how we connect to these beliefs or assumptions or what's possible, but we can approach them with these two different energies, which we're talking about, the learner and the judger.
And it does take a lot of energy to be in judger. It's less energy to be in learner. That's for sure. So mindset, I love there's all these sayings around mindset. If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And that is a really powerful mindset, because it lets you know that you can choose that, right? But that puts a lot of responsibility on people. So sometimes I have found that people get stuck. They get so familiar with the judger mindset. It's just, they're so comfortable with it. And that learner mindset can become, people we've coached, it can become awkward at first. Like, oh, I have choice. I have opportunity. I have possibilities. I can live in that learner mindset and find out what these possibilities are by asking a few questions. And it goes back to the curiosity thinking. And so learner mindset is right in line. It aligns with curiosity and aligns with asking questions. So instead of being the knower, you become the asker. And instead of becoming the answer person, you become the question person. And it's a completely different mindset. And so, you're not the know-it-all, you're the seeker of information by being curious. And it takes much less energy and much less time. So initially people are like, well, that's going to take so much time to ask those questions. But in the long run, it actually shortens everything.
Yeah. And I know, I'm one of those people which, if you would ask, me, are you stubborn? I'd be like, heck yeah, I'm stubborn, and what I've connected with that is my stubbornness was really connected to me wanting to stick to my own ways, my way or the highway, and not move forward. Right. And then once I kind of learned this whole method about mindset and the learner and judger, I realized the only person that I'm really hurting here is myself, because I wasn't allowing myself to move forward. I was having a fixed mindset to where it was like my way or the highway concept. And not only was I not allowing myself to move forward, but it was, causing problems with my team to move forward or people that I was working with, because obviously positive conversations wouldn't happen. It's hard to find the solutions. So really I was slowing myself down and even possibly slowing my team down if I wasn't willing to move forward and come up with other ideas, get creative, or have solutions.
Yeah, and in business, we all have challenges. It's interesting because everybody has a unique business. Even in the lawn care and landscape business, everybody's business is special. It's unique. And all across the country, all 86,000 lawn and landscape businesses are absolutely completely unique and individualized, right? But what's interesting is now, I've been in this industry for 40 years. I've coached and consulted, dozens of lawn care and landscape businesses. The challenges are almost the same, regardless of the uniqueness, right? So what are some of the three mindsets that we run into, the three types of business owners that we run into, Christine?
Yeah, so I would say in working with the business owners over the years, a few different industries. Like, yes, I'm very much have worked with the trades industries over the years, and this goes from lawn and landscape businesses to different contractors to general contractors, focused contractors. And we've even worked with, a few merchants or even nonprofit, companies as well. But for the past 25 years, really looking at businesses in general, will all have similar problems, right? And what we've connected with those is they're based on the type of business owner that they are. So it's like we're very different, but surprise, we have similar challenges and issues. And this can go from our operations, our team members, just maybe you have problems and, with finance, whatever it is. Different business owners are going to have different pain points, but guess what? There's going to be a group of them. So, the first type is what I kind of refer to as like lost and confused, which Steve, you and I've talked about, like the lost and confused, right? It's very applicable. And they're completely over their head. So what's going on with them? So they have, too much going on. They're completely unaware of what's happening, or maybe they're even in denial. Been there, done that. And it takes, on what it really takes to like run their business. They don't know, they're in denial, or they're over their head and unaware. And they suffer through like never connecting with, what does better look like, or even how is that possible?
And I was only kidding before about the 86,000 unique lawn and landscape businesses. There's probably a few categories of us, but it feels unique because we're the one that has to wake up every morning and deal with it. We're the ones that have to answer to our customers, answer to our families. So it feels unique. But, you made a good point. I'm in a number of chamber of commerces, and all the businesses, regardless of what industry they're in, they're having the same discussions. It's about finding employees, right? How do we attract, retain, and train good employees? It's about, how do they keep their market share in their marketplace? It's similar discussions that regardless of what you're in. But the mindsets are the same, right? It's that fixed mindset, that lost, confused. So they start a business and they had no idea how much work it was. Typically they were in the industry already, but now they're going to start their own business. So they thought, the Michael Gerber, they thought because they knew how to do the work that a business does, that they knew how to run a business that does that work. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's state taxes and unemployment insurance and workers' comp insurance. And I have to have a website, and I have to have Facebook, and it has to be monitored, and it has to be posted. Oh no, content and accounts receivables. Who's going to do this? And I'm supposed to have quarterly meetings, and sales tax are due. And when they were doing the work of the thing that they're now managing and running the business of, they didn't do any of that. That was all done for them. Oh, and I have to hire. Now I have to start running ads and interviewing people. And then we also have to have equipment, and we have to maintain the equipment. And it just goes on. And they become completely overwhelmed. And then that fixed mindset becomes only, what I hear is I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one. Why do I have to check everybody else's work? I'm the only one that can do anything right. I'm the only one that can do certain things. And I see it, even with accountants, even with attorneys, they're I can't have a different attorney because only I'm the one that can, do this type of work. So it's that fixed mindset, and it's that judger mindset of, no, only I can do it right. Everybody else, what's wrong with them? Let me tell you what's wrong with them. So I have to do it. And it really stunts the business. And typically you can talk to them unless we can move them past this, which we have helped people move past this. We end up having the same conversations 3 to 5 years later.
Yeah. And I would say we've talked to so many of these types of business owners, the lost and confused. Very few have we ended up working with. I think the lost and confused is a comfortable place to be for those people that start off there. And it's very hard to move them forward.
It is. It's very frustrating as a coach because you can open the doors up, show them the sunlight, and they just cannot move out of the shadow.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is, and this is a fun one, the I know best, business owner. So they know things need to change, but they either don't do anything about it, or they try to go at it alone and eventually give up and fail. And this type functions 80% of their time in the judger mindset. I'd say and about 20% of time in the learner mindset. So, it's that I'm focused on nobody else can do it. I can do it right. If I give it to somebody else, they're going to screw it up. They blame others for things if it doesn't go right, if they turn things over. They're not communicating clearly about expectations and needs. And then they go, oh, well, this is their fault. I'm so right that, no one else can do it and only I can do it for it to be successful.
And the I know best, working with the I know best, some I know best businesses, and I'm laughing because what they're really great at is evidence. They can prove how they know best. Like they have lots of evidence against politicians, whether it's national, international politicians, local politicians, the economy, the workforce. They know almost everything about everything. And so nothing is ever their fault with their business. Like they offer the same products. They don't change things. They don't innovate. They treat their employees like it's 1942 working in a coal mine. And then it's not that, it's everybody else's fault and that's why, and they have lots of evidence to prove why they're not to blame.
Yeah, I think some of the most interesting conversations is where they'll blame their team for everything. But then if something doesn't go right with a vendor, they'll blame the vendor and they'll defend their team. So it's like, the blame changes position, the defense changes position, and it's really based on whatever narrative serves, them in the moment. And so that's a very sticky situation because I feel like in trying to work through some of the problems with the I know best business owner is we can't find solutions. It's really hard to find the facts because a lot of the narrative that's showing up is the defense, and it tries to cloud out the facts. So it's hard to move forward and get to a really good place with a foundation with this type of business owner that has this mindset because we can't really find, truth, go on that fact-finding mission to connect it with workable solutions and then make a change. That willingness to change, it's a very narrow path that they're willing to go down.
And there's a lot of fear with the I know best because their biggest fear is that they will actually be wrong. And then people think less of them because they weren't right. So typically they're the answer people. You have to go check with them before you do anything. If you didn't check with them and it was successful, they'll make sure to point out all the things that weren't 100%, even if the customers were thrilled. And it's a lot of that fear-based. They have to be the superhero, even at the cost of their business's success. As long as they look and feel like the superhero, they're winning. The business doesn't, or their team doesn't have to win at all the time. And a lot of times people call these bad bosses. And they'll have high turnover and they'll wonder why there's nobody wants to work and you can't find people. And, I think, we all know that people quit bosses, not jobs. And so this I know best boss can be quite a challenge to work with.
Yeah, and it really takes a lot to move anything forward. So there's a lot of friction in the business. Things don't get done to the level that they should. Expectations aren't met. So there's a lot going on there. It's, very chaotic, in the business and with the team. And, there's a lot of action happening, but not a lot of doing. So everybody looks busy, but what's actually happening, there's not a lot getting done.
Yes. There's a lot of plate spinning, shuffling of paper, and processes in systems that are not actually being effectively implemented. That's for sure. I've seen it. I've probably done it at times and realized it was not serving me.
Oh yeah, I know I have. Like there's a point where I was like, "Give up my email." Are you like? I have to answer every one of my emails. I realized it really had nothing to do with me giving up my email. It was, if I gave up my email, then what else could I do?
Right. And what if they said the wrong thing? And yes, there's that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the third owner is the need for change. They become more aware over time. They get support they need. They get things done. Their businesses go through a metamorphosis and become what they always dreamed it could be. This type functions at 20% of their time in judger mindset and 80% of their time in learner mindset. They ask new questions, gain a better understanding of what's needed, and identify opportunities for trust and change.
Core Growth Strategies provides business growth management solutions through cloud accounting, bookkeeping, and strategic business consulting programs. Our team works with small businesses in lawn care and landscape and trade industries throughout the U.S. We increase our clients' business acumen by creating business performance transparency through financials and strategic advisement based on industry best practices and benchmarks. Our experienced team provides support, guidance, and coaching, thereby allowing our clients to connect with viable data and discover their own solutions. Core Growth Strategies programs and services are designed to get your business from where it is now to where you have always dreamed it to be. Visit us today at coregrowthstrategies.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't miss our exclusive limited time podcast special. Just mention promo code GPA Pro to any member of our team during your complimentary consultation, or enter the promo code on our site when you sign up for one of our online programs. That's promo code GPA Pro. Yeah, and I love this because it brings in that, what we've talked about in the past, where if anybody's, been on in any of our workshops on mindset and utilizing the choice map, or listen to a podcast or a talk that we've done before, we talk about how judger is our friend. And though we might be, 20% in judger, it's okay because it's there supporting us for a reason, right? And business is hard. I mean, let's just get real. Business is hard, no matter how much work you put into your business to systematize, create process, have amazing players on your team. People are all doing the right things. Like, nothing is perfect when we're human, and there's a lot of things going on in business. So even on the good days, things happen. And, it can kind of trigger that judger that happens, that judger mindset. But it's like, we can take that breath and we can choose, like you said before, Steve, moment to moment. Okay, what happened? How else can I look at this? Where did things go wrong? Where can we make improvements? So it's that different approach to where that judger is telling us, yeah, something went wrong. Now here's the opportunity to make it go right. Now what? So I love this, need for change business owners that we work with, because they're so open for opportunity and open for growth. And I've worked with several clients over the, last several years where, their growth has been exponential in their business model, their revenue, their profit, their operations. It's just phenomenal what that need for change, can really inspire and, plant that seed for growth, not just with the business owner, but their team as well.
That's what I was going to say. So one of the things that we've noticed with the business owners that have the need for change, they can leave their businesses. They don't have to be there all the time because they're not the answer guy. Their team can formulate their own answers. So the I know best guy, they can't go on vacation, or the I know best owner, they can't even take 3-day weekends. They can't leave for long periods of time. But the need for change business owner, they can take a 4-week vacation. They can take 3-day vacations. They don't have to be there all the time. Their team has stepped into that. Their team owns, their own responsibilities, and they have the ability to ask questions and be curious. So it's kind of a lifestyle like hindrance to be that, I know best business owner, because you're the bottleneck. If you're that person, everything has to go through you, and you're the only person in the company that can do so many things. It will exhaust you. And I know business owners, I meet them at the chamber, I meet them industry stuff. They are exhausted, and they look exhausted. So it's a heavy price to pay, and the need for change. They have a different lifestyle because they get out of people's way and they let people step up and use their talents and their skills to perform at a higher level.
Yeah. And, even where we're at, Steve, like, I feel like we're still in the need for change group because we're always looking to learn. We're looking to improve. We're looking to turn things over to team members. We look at who's on our team. How can they show up? What can we hand over to them? And, we bring it into our planning and even into our coaching when we go and get coaching and support. We talk about these things like, I'm not here yet. What's next? Okay, what am I not seeing? What opportunities are in front of me? What could I stop doing? And what should I start doing? So, we're allowing that evolution to happen, not with just us as individuals, but with our business. And we're inviting our team members to be a part of it.
And we start all of our one-on-ones that we do with a choice map, asking our team where they're at on the choice map. And even today we had a meeting. That's where we started the meeting with our coaching clients. Where are they on the choice map? And it's okay if you're in Judger. Judger's our friend. It lets us know how we're thinking, feeling, and sharing it and getting out, making it part of the culture of the business. And getting out from the owner is really how you can grow a business and have it expand without the owner always carrying it. And teaching the team to be curious. I had a discussion with one of my teammates today. We're having a new project, and it's very much in the beta stage. And so I'm making him the champion. And before he could start asking me the 1,300 questions he was going to ask me, I said, "This is your baby. I don't know the answers. You have to go ask the support from this software company the questions. You have to develop your own questions. My job in the company is to give you a job. My job is not to do your job. So you have to be curious. You have to find out, the answers to this. I don't know the answers. My job is to get this stuff going and handing off to you." And letting him know it was in beta and that we're going to find out what is great about this and what is not so great about it before we move forward, because now is September and we're going to roll this out a little bit in the fall and be ready for 2024. We're not going to wait until 2024 when we need it and try it, because we need to come up with all these questions and curiosity about how does it work? What can we do with it? What's the opportunity? What's possible? And that only happens by asking a lot of questions. But I can't be the only person in my company who champions everything and who is the question asker. So I need, my team then becomes where they're operating 80% in learner and 20% in judger.
Yeah. And I think with, all of these mindsets, like there's how business owners kind of show up. There are, a typical mix of challenges that can happen with them or that we've seen with them. And the first two, the lost and confused and the I know best, they kind of share the same challenges that we've seen in other business owners or in other, with the other business owners. So mindset, the judger victim mindset versus the learner mindset. So that's a challenge that we see is consistently showing up with the lost and confused and I know best. We also have seen that they lack clear mission, vision, and purpose, right? It's like the time isn't put in to really define that. And then once it is, there's this kind of like aha that happens where they're like, oh, this is how I get everybody on the same page, or this is, this makes sense. Like now I can, put all my efforts into down this one path and we're not running around, doing a fire drill here. The other thing that I notice is there's lack of systems and processes for their marketing, their sales, their delivery, their financials, their people, hiring, training, retention. I mean, there's just no processes, right? It's like the business owner knows it all, or they haven't invested time in it. So it's like the team of me. So it's like there's really no business. It's a job. So that's, one of the other problems. Another one is lack of focus. because again, here they're doing that fire drill, they're all over the place. They don't really know what they should be focusing on. And that's another reason why I love the Fix This Next tool, because it can really tell you and take away the delusion that I think some business owners have of what they have in place and what they don't have in place, which typically starts with sales. Like a lot of companies, oh yeah, I have, a sales in place. And then it's like, but you don't have enough money, but you don't, this isn't in place. Like you're not getting enough leads. Like, tell me more about that. So, that lack of focus of what they really need to do to establish a solid business. And then there's also that lack of understanding with our own strengths or the strengths of the people on our team, which, we utilize the Clifton Strengths. And Steve, you're a certified Clifton Strengths coach. So, I would kind of like some of your feedback on that lack of understanding our own strengths and how that shows up not only as entrepreneurs, but with our team members too.
So Clifton Strengths, it measures our 34 strengths and or 34 talent themes. And a strength is developed by taking a talent and matching it up with a skill and knowledge and practicing it. So we can have this talent, but if we don't match it up with a skill and practice, it doesn't actually become a strength. But in our own selves, identifying and recognizing what our talents are and our strengths are, then we can aim and focus them. You and I are a good partnership because I have certain talents and strengths. You have certain talents and strengths. We do have some that match up, but there's lots of space for us to be with our own strengths to show up. And it's the same thing with our team, recognizing our team's talents and strengths and giving them the right and permission to show up with those strengths and talents and recognizing it and honoring it. So, one of my strengths is activator. That's my number one. And number 5 is maximizer. So I want to get everything going and then I want to push stuff as far as I can push it. So that's just one of my things, but I'm not the middle part. So I come up with the idea, I get it going, but I don't handle all the details. I don't do all the work to complete it. So I need a team that is not full of activators, but full of strategic and so my team is heavy into task. They're very much executors. So they get stuff done, but they don't start stuff. So I love reports to see how things are going and at the end and getting things going. But I'm not the doer of things. I don't have high executing. I have high influencing. So recognizing who on my team or who on your team has high executing and high, whether it's influencing and even empathy. So, it really depends on, there's paying attention to what your team's strengths are and your own strengths make a big difference. So even my wife, she took the Clifton Strength Assessment and it always used to kind of bug me. She always has 1,000 questions about everything. And I'd be like, what do you need to know how the nuclear power plant works that we just drove by? And, but she has learner and input, which is they have this need to learn and get more information. So that's why she was always asking questions. So I would come home with some certain information and be like, I don't know all the details. Why are you asking me all these details? But now I know if I'm going to talk to her about something, I better show up with some details and some more information. And, also I inadvertently surrounded myself, and this was before I even knew about Clifton Strength. Christine, high strategic, my chief operating officer, my lawn care and landscape business is high strategic, my wife, all my friends, and I'm not. So they find different ways of looking at things and they find what's wrong. And some people can take that as negative. I take it as my activator rushes into things and I'm not looking at what's wrong. I need strategics to say, hey, this is a possibility. This could go wrong. So recognizing and honoring their strengths as, being helpful has really helped me to build teams at work, build teams in my personal life, build our business, Christine. So having an awareness of who's on your team, that's what I always ask people. They're like, who's on your team? I have to do everything. Well, who's on your team? And then some people say no one. But when I really make them sit down and write it out, they find out the who's on their team. Because we're no one's alone here. And recognizing, honoring who's on our team and what talents and strengths they bring. So my company, everyone takes the strength assessment. It's right on their door. It's right on wherever they're working from. Everybody knows that, so we can honor it. Now, we're not trying to fix anybody. Clifton Strengths we're not trying to work on our weak spots. What we're actually trying to do is let our very strengths, the things that come so naturally to us, our natural talents, to show up every day so we can live those. And then things become easier. It's much easier to live in learner living when we're operating from our strengths.
And I think even understanding who's on our team and what their strengths are, because that's, we've gotten lots of comments about just our business partnership, Steve, and how we show up and, how healthy it is. And we really know each other's strengths and they do complement each other. So it's like, I never expect you to build out a program, design a workshop, create, too big of an agenda, something like that, because that's my job. That's what I'm really good at, is that strategic, that executing and making sure it's connective enough for the people. And, you show up and you help it, make it happen. You help move it forward. And you also come up with some ideas, to where you're like, oh, what if we did this? Or what if we did that? So, it's a fine compliment. I'll never expect you to do something, that I do. And you'll never expect me to do something that you do. So it really takes away that space for either of us to be disappointed or, create that blame or victim narrative, because we already know what to expect and how we show up. So that really helps a lot when it comes to the ability to focus, to be creative, to create processes in a business, understand what direction we're going and whose job is who, or whose job should be who.
And so one of the challenges, right, before I was into Clifton Strengths, now I'm a Clifton Strength certified coach. So, I would be frustrated with people. Why do they have to ask so many questions? Why do they want to get into the details? Why do they have to be so emotional about stuff? Well, they have high empathy, or they have high strategic. They see the things I don't see. They feel the things I don't feel. So now I'm really able to honor that and slow things down. And by slowing it down and honoring their strengths and talents, things go faster. So I've learned, and I say it, and it's actually framed above my desk, given to me as a gift from my office manager. Slow is fast. So slow becomes the fastest way to do anything, by giving people and recognizing their talents and strengths. And I will share with you what a different workplace it is when people know they're going to show up at my company and your company too, Christine, and their strengths are going to be recognized and honored and encouraged and given the space to live at work. So instead of saying, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking at this? Why is it taking so long? I know they're going to read every line in that report. And just be aware of it. Like, I'm not going to read every line. I'm looking at the bottom. I'm doing the percentages and the ratios. Everything to me becomes percentages and ratios because I know what they should be. Mm-hmm. And if they're out of line, I can look at that and pick it out. I'm not going to go back in QuickBooks and fix it, but I know what it should be. I'm going to let you know. And the people that have all the detail can go do that. It's the same thing with our landscape crews. We have guys that are so good at laying pavers. Everything is so precise. Everything is so, just so much care is given to making sure every 16th of an inch is spot on. And so, we allow them the time. We just estimate correctly so they can do that. And then when we get people see that work, they hire us because they want that work. Like, they want to see tight joints. We're not turning pavers. We're laying wide and we're cutting. People want to see nice, tight joints. At least our customers do. I'm not saying everybody does, but so we have people that do that, and we honor and let them do that. So being aware of your team's talents and strengths really can help me stay out of that judger, because now I understand, like, people with high empathy feel quite a bit. And it's interesting. So we did a workshop, and my lawn care technicians, 8 out of the 9 of them are executing, which is doing people. And there's one that has high empathy, number 1 actually, and he thinks very differently than the other techs. But he has a very key function in our business. He can deal with very particular types of customers. He can actually run very particular types of routes that the other executing people don't like to do, because it's okay if he's doing more like smaller, more detailed, slower functions, like lots of small lawns where they want to do big lawns, big properties, big production, because the executing strength drives them to get lots of square footage and lots of production done. So even in lawn techs, you can really dial in their strengths to what type of routes that they run.
Yeah, and I kind of want to unpack, the challenges that the need for change, type of business owner have, because they're similar, but it comes from a different perspective. And so many of the things that you just shared, Steve, in your business and what's happened with your team is the result of the need for change mindset, right? Those things happened because you were in this mindset. And so some of the things is they do the hard work to default to the learner mindset versus the judge or victim mindset, which I know we both, man, I feel like we've paid our dues at, in really putting the work to change that mindset. Like instead of going, these people drive me crazy. What's going on? We've changed our mindset to go, well, what's the problem here? What did I not communicate? What am I being responsible for? How can we make this better? They also roll up their sleeves and create a clear mission, purpose, and vision, which we've just been working on this. By the time this drops, we'll just be finishing this up. The business accelerator workshop, right? Like we're helping them go through and define their goals and their milestones and create a strategic plan and their mission, vision, and purpose, which really creates clarity, for the direction of the business and the business owner, so because we can get distracted by shiny objects.
It really does create a lot of that mission, vision, purpose is so much work to do it, but it's worth doing the work. It makes, and you can share that with your team, you can share that with your family, and just your own business owner themselves knowing the mission, vision, and purpose makes their life so much easier. And they can align their strengths up to that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's super powerful. They also put in the work to create, and keyword, not just create, but turn over systems and processes for their marketing, their sales, their deliverables, their financial management, their hiring, their people, and their training and retention programs, right? So they don't have to own it. And even some business owners, you and I included, we have our teams create the systems and processes. Like we're like, okay, we need that, create a process for that, so it's not even us doing it anymore. I'd say they also utilize the assessments and done for you systems to debug their business. So there's a lot out there that you can lean into as a business owner that will help you understand what do you need to focus on, what's next, what do you need to move forward, and some of these are fix this next. So fix this next assessment, utilizing profit first to manage your cash flow and make sure your business is healthy. The pumpkin planning, process. So that really helps you. Steve, you were just in, the video book for the pumpkin plan because you implemented the pumpkin plan in your business. And it really helps you understand who, what your sweet spot is in your business, who your ideal customers are, the services you deliver, your market. So it prepares you for growth and scalability. And then the clockwork system is another one to where it helps you turn things over in your business and create, kind of like that final foundation to where you can work yourself out of your business, which is what we all started a business to do in the first place, right? To support us, inspire us, and then eventually we retire from it and the business is an asset, or we're only doing the little things we love in the business. So that's what clockworking is for. And the need for change mindset, business owner. So they also, they may even have a deeper understanding of their own strengths. Like Steve just shared his strengths and his team's strengths, again, using the Clifton strengths assessment. So that really helps gain clarity of who's on your team, who isn't, where are the gaps, how can you fill them, how can you really get your team to be even more efficient and productive. That's a great assessment to utilize. And then they also invest in and work with a coach and professional advisor. So this is one of the biggest things that I've seen is business owners who really have the need for change, want to focus and move forward. They work with a coach or an advisor.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to think about all the great athletes that work with coaches, right? I mean, Tiger Woods, all the great boxing champions. Everybody has a coach. I've had coaches for the past 20 something years. I've had coaches. It's so much fun to share. I've had business coach, accounting coaches. I had stone carving coaches, a speaking coach. I mean, working with John Bates, who's going to be at our retreat this year. He changed how I spoke to people. He changed how I showed up at my company and in my community by helping me understand that I have to just show up as my true authentic self all the time and share my story of who I am and my struggles and how I got here. And that helped to connect. It's literally changed how I talk to most people. Instead of trying to always be this like, look how great I am, look what I did. It's like, hey, look where I messed up. Then this is what I learned from messing up. And let me share that with you in a really authentic and like true way. So yes, coaching is great. Clifton Strength Coach. That's how I got into Clifton Strength, by having a Clifton Strength coach. So all these coaches, and Sid Sexton is who from Sexton's Lawn and Landscape, who's grown his business to just beyond his dream. He's a huge fan of coaching. Christine, just Mike McAllowitz from Profit First, and Pumpkin Plan and Fix This Next and Clockwork. He has a coach. So coaching for business is a real asset. So that's why we coach, because we want to help people.
Yeah. So I want to take some time before we tie up today to talk about what needs to happen for change to take place. We talked about, like the mindset. We talked about the different types of business owners and some of the challenges and pain points that show up. So what are, some of the needs that have to happen for change to take place? Like, what does that look like?
So getting a coach is one of the biggest changes, right? And then focusing on your mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the mindset, like starting to work on the mindset is a big game changer. I know myself, like I went after different areas of things I needed to change in my business. Reflecting back on it, if I could have had a conversation with myself, I would have said, hey, you know what? If you start with adjusting your mindset and working on mastering your mindset, all of this is going to be a heck of a lot easier. So I think that, if I could rearrange the order of my journey, I know if I would have started out with my mindset, all the things that came after that would have been so much easier. So I think that that's a great, place to start. And when I say mastering your mindset, it means you can change your mindset, consciously and intentionally. So you're making that choice, like Steve said, moment to moment. But to do this, we must first learn to be able to be aware, like raise our awareness about what mindset we're in. And, these are the kind of things that take time and work.
And that's why I say get the coach, because a lot of times we don't know things are supposed to be difficult. We think they're supposed to be easy, and then we can't do it. And then we get to, why am I struggling with this? What's wrong with me? Why am I so stupid? Why bother? When it's supposed to be difficult, it's supposed to be hard. And, that's part of the journey. And some of the things, if people want to really move their business forward, some of the questions they can ask themselves are, how am I holding my business back? As a leader, what is the one thing I could work on that would have the biggest impact? And Fix This Next helps with that assessment. What am I good at, or what do I love to do in my business? And that's going to reveal some strengths to you. I love to go sell. I love to create. And so that's my influencing theme. What do I love to do in my business? What is my team good at? And what do they love to do in the business? So just letting your team show up. And, it's interesting. And we've talked about immutable laws in a business. And we always know that when a client of ours is breaking our immutable laws, my team, they're so out of their comfort zone because it goes against their strengths, high harmony, positivity, communication. And they do not want that conflict. They so much want to help the client. So they'll handle conflict when it's appropriate. But as soon as it becomes inappropriate, that is when the immutable laws have been broken. And I can tell immediately my team is stressing out because it's out of their strengths. Who is on my team? Huge question. Who's on my team and at work and in your life, and who's supporting you, and who do I need on my team? So really recognizing first who's on my team and then who do I need, and how can I best support my team to make the changes that we need to make?
Yeah, those are all really powerful questions to set down and answer. So, if you're driving, I would employ you to later on, when you can sit down and review these questions, go ahead and answer them and, really dig deep. And, this is a way that you can connect with and change your mindset. And, also it's when it comes to mastering your mindset, we first need to notice. So it's that, whole thing about slowing down, realizing like, how are we responding or reacting to people's or situations? What are our thoughts on this? How can we think about this differently? And our goal is to move from that default thinking of being stimulated and automatically reacting to, when we talk about mindset mastery, there's that stimulation that happens, but the difference is we take a pause and we become curious and we make a choice and then we respond. So creating some space in order for that to happen. And I know we've worked with several business owners, over the years where just how they changed their mindset their business has completely changed. Their team engagement has changed.
And one of the business owners was sharing with me, I was working with one of his emerging leaders directly, and he was just sharing with me how much the choice map and the work we had done together has changed this person's life with his family. And he said, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. That's how much the change was, because he went from deep judger to finding his way to the learner path. And it affected his work, but also affected him and his relationship with his daughter, which is the most important thing in the world. So it impacts our whole life. And my team will share with anybody who will ask them, the work we've done here in the company with the choice map and mindset reaches far beyond these walls that they work in. And it goes home with them. It goes to their family. It goes to wherever they go in the community and in their life. So it's powerful stuff.
It is. And a story I'll share is, there's this client that I've been working with for the past 3 years. And, when we first started working with them, they were kind of like, well, I do that in my business. Well, I do that in my business. Well, I also do that in my business. And today we just had a conversation about how, they're having one of their managers step up to run the company. And they're pretty much like stepping aside to where, over time in the past 3 years, not only has the company grown, from around 1 million to over 10 million. But in addition to that, the team has been developed. They're turning things over to their team members. They're kind of out of the day-to-day and just kind of doing the strategic planning and the things that they really love. And 3 years ago, that was not the business owner I had a conversation with on a consultation called, talking about getting profit first implemented in their business. So the change that has happened with this individual, not just with the business owner, but then with the team that they have built in the company and the lifestyle that they're living now it's a completely different situation. And even the revenue and profit in their business is just completely different.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I know how curious he is. His team's curious. It's a great, and the energy is there. And, and I talked earlier about Sid Sexton. I mean, he's going to be doing almost $10 million with 3 locations. And it was interesting about 4 or 5, probably 5 years ago, 2018, one of the things that we would always say when we were talking or having these conversations was, can you ask me a better question? So it wasn't like, let me tell you the answer, or let me have my advice monster tell you what to do. It was like, can you ask me a better question? So, and we would always challenge each other, and it would create a deeper thought and curiosity is like, all right, can I ask a better question? What does a better question sound like? What's a more powerful question as opposed to the answer? Because our brain wants to find solutions with curiosity. And I will share, a lot of people have answers. They're already loaded. They have an answer gun. They walk around with them. They have 5 or 6 answers for everything. And people will say something, they just shoot them off. But if you go past the easy answers and you keep asking deeper, more meaningful questions, you get way past the easy answers that they have loaded in the answer gun. So, and that's what we would do to each other to push, and it creates an open mind and awareness and curiosity.
Yeah. So I wanted to share, we just finished up our leadership program for, an entire year. One of the changes that we decided to make was to break out some of these, this content that we were sharing and teaching in our Owning Leadership and Emerging Leadership program. Was we wanted to break them down to be a little bit more digestible and also doable, to where it's like it wasn't a year commitment, but it was a shorter, amount of time. So we have launching the first week of November of this year, our Unlocking Your Growth Mindset Utilizing the Choice Map. It's a 6-week workshop that helps participants, business owners, and team members as well learn how to utilize the choice map as a powerful tool for taking ownership of their thoughts and actions. So we're going to share the link for this in the show notes if you're curious about it. And this podcast has inspired you to want to learn more about shifting your mindset, changing your mindset, then please, feel free to click on that link, and you can start by learning a little bit more and being curious right there.
And we did mention earlier that I was in the Pumpkin Plan video book. I would look for that. It's on Lit Video, LIT video, and that is the Pumpkin Plan video book. It's about 23 minutes long. There's a lot of good information in that video. It shares practical information of what I did in my lawn and landscape business implementing Pumpkin Plan. And if you're not a subscriber of the podcast, subscribe now. We have a lot of good information. Christine, I am talking to people on a daily basis almost who listen to every episode of our podcast. And I want to say thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And we're going to keep bringing you great content. And thank you for the feedback. It's really appreciated.
Yeah. And feel free, let us know what you want to talk about. Go ahead and email support@greenprofitacademy.com. And you can title it podcast episode and let us know, if we haven't talked about something yet, what are you interested in us unpacking for you? So we'd love to get on here and address anything that you're interested in.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to you joining us on the next episode. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast,
the show that digs into the challenges of growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit.